Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday to you, March 14th, 2025. I'm Dave Neal, and I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And on today's episode, we'll cover the Australian Prime Minister slamming an influencer who stole a baby wombat. That influencer might have their visa canceled. Also, Gabby Windey, winner of Traders, talks about not getting paid yet, and we'll get that interview. Also, Sweeney, is she going through a breakup? She's supposed to, or was supposed to get married very soon. The marriage or wedding was postponed, and TMZ reports she's now living at a hotel. I'll have that story, plus Justin Baldoni's lawyer speaks. That's right. Brian Friedman speaks in a contentious interview and shares his thoughts on some of the key aspects of the upcoming case. You're going to want to stick around to listen to what he had to say. And some talk about the economy. It's in an all-out free fall. The stock markets are performing very badly right now. And we'll have J.D. Vance blaming it on Joe Biden. That's right. Also, a conversation around free speech as people face deportations over, I guess, having opinions about the wars going on across the country. So, a lot to get into. We'll have all these stories and more. It's all happening right now on The Rush. All right, I like to start with a good animal story, and it's justice for the baby wombat. It's a real sad moment here where this U.S. influencer takes a video of her running across the street to grab the baby wombat, rip it away from its little mother there, just for a quick video. She does release the wombat back to the mom, but the Australian Prime Minister, not too happy about it, says knock it off.
To take a baby wombat from its mother and clearly causing distress from the mother is just an outrage. And, I suggest to this so-called influencer, maybe she might try some other Australian animals. Take a baby crocodile from its mother and see how you go there.
There it is. See how you go there. Now, listen, this is wrong. You shouldn't do that. And you're an idiot. You're an absolute moron to think that this was something appropriate to upload. She did upload it and, of course, then deleted it and is in hot water. And again, it doesn't make Americans look good when they're traveling and stealing people's babies from their, wombat moms. But at the same time, she's now been internationally shamed and probably feels like a stupid fool. I say public apology and move on. Lesson learned. That's just me. Is that too much grace? I don't know. All right. Gabby Windey in the news. One Traders. And by the way, let's find out how much money she actually won. But here she is at the airport. TMZ finds her. She says she hasn't been paid yet.
Gabby, huge Traders fan. Huge fan of you.
Thank you.
You're like the queen of reality TV now.
Oh my God, thank you.
What's next for you now? You could basically do anything.
I mean, I don't know. I think I can just keep doing what I'm doing.
More reality TV?
I can't say that much, but who knows,
Bravo fans want you to be a housewife now.
Yes, I love Bravo.
Would you consider that?
Maybe. I don't know.
We need Andy Cohen to get on the case.
Love Andy Cohen. I know. Let him know. I'm here.
You're here and you're interested. Okay, very good. I also love your rants about Elon Musk.
Thank you.
Would you drive a Cybertruck if he gave you one for free?
Never.
$1 million thrown in?
No, but I don't want to talk anymore about that in the airport.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That's fair enough. One last question. Mm-hmm. You said last night on Andy that you haven't been paid your winnings yet. What's up with that?
Well, to be fair, it's only been 3 business days since the finale. But, I'm just trying to be a little cheeky.
Right, fair enough. Mm-hmm. We heard that it's because your team hasn't submitted paperwork or payment.
How do you know that?
We know everything.
Okay,
that's our job to know.
How funny is that the TMZ knows about her paperwork issues? Either way, I guess she's owed $200,000. And hey, not bad. You get some fame, you get $200,000, and then you get to live your life. Sounds pretty good to me. Well, fame's not always for everybody, and I hate. And by the way, I am not trying to sound like I'm not apologetic towards what I'm about to share with you. Sweeney possibly going through some lifestyle changes. Was supposed to get married this spring. The wedding was called off. And now TMZ's reporting that I guess she's living alone and possibly this is a breakup happening. Have a listen.
From multiple people who have seen her at the hotel, that work at the hotel, that Sydney actually checked into the hotel before we broke the story of the wedding even being postponed. People have been kind of buzzing, is there trouble in paradise with the marriage? Why would she be staying here? The fiance, as you mentioned, has not been in sight. In fact, Sydney's been leaning on 2 girlfriends that are regularly seen at the hotel with her. She's also got a male bodyguard that's been with her for security reasons. But she's been spending a lot of time with these girlfriends at the hotel. They're going to the bar, having drinks. They're eating at the Polo Lounge. In fact, she was at the pool on Saturday having lunch with Lauren Sanchez.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep. Her and Lauren Sanchez were having lunch. It all makes sense. She was a part of that photo of them at the Oscars together a week before.
It was the Oscars.
Yep.
So she's been living there for a month?
Well, I guess it'd be like about over a month from the way it was described to me. From the people that I've spoken to, it's been a little bit over a month. Like I said, it was before we broke the story about the wedding being postponed. And we've pressed people close to her what is really going on here. And we just can't get a straight answer.
Well, I know they're not answering, but it's like it makes you think.
All right. And again, it's up to them to decide to talk about whatever they're doing with their lives. But tough. I mean, it's got to be tough for, I don't even know the name of her fiance, but Sydney Sweeney, she's the bombshell in all of the rom-com movies. And they say they wanted Sydney Sweeney to play up the romance because it helps drive box office tickets, right? The rumors that you're dating your co-star Glenn Powell. And it worked. I mean, her movies have just really knocked it out of the park. I've watched, I mean, they're good. I think they're good. The one where her and Glenn Powell, I watch that every time I'm catching a flight. It's just a good go-to, right? They're in Australia. They don't steal any wombats, right? It's a good deal. All right, but anyhow, let's move it on from those stories. We got it all from, Bachelor Gabby Windey to Sydney Sweeney, wombats, and now an update regarding Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. This is from Albertson and Davidson at Law, our lawyer friends here, and they give an update to the protective order that was granted in part by the judge. A lot of people, are wondering who won the protective order that we found out yesterday. Was it Blake's side? Was it Justin's side? Here's what they have to say.
If I was on the Baldoni side, I'd feel pretty good. I'd feel like, wow, we got almost everything we wanted. I mean, yes, we have, a few things that are attorney's eyes only, but we stopped the Lively attorneys from being able to unilaterally designate anything and everything. And we now have some grounds where we can push back on them if they over-designate things, such as designating highly personal information that is relevant.
And as you know, the attorneys at Albertson and Davidson Law, they've been nailing this so far. Their channel's been doing well. We've done several interviews with them. So they say it looks like Justin won more than he lost on that. And I'm agreeing with them. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting. Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, grilled on Blake Lively in contentious interview. I got to tell you, I was excited for this. It's a good interview, but it's nothing super crazy. Contentious, I don't know about that. I'm going to share several good clips from it, though, that coming next. All right, I came across this article. Justin Baldoni's lawyer grilled on Blake Lively in contentious interview. Brian Friedman was taken to task by Puck's Matt Baldoni, who by the end of their podcast, Baldoni, who by the end of their podcast interview had compared the lawyer to Donald Trump. The comparison was just an aside. I really don't think it was a contentious interview whatsoever, but I do think what's interesting is at the end of the interview, they get Brian Friedman to discuss why he's not settling this case and why his client's not. Also, they talk about the rogue PR agent, Steph Jones, who once, was done doing business with Wayfair, may have coordinated with Blake Lively in the New York Times business. They call it Shady. So it's interesting to hear their takes. I think Matt Baldoni does a pretty good job of cross-examining a lot of the points that they have. And I think it's a real delight that we get to listen to this right now. So I'm going to play a few clips from it. This is the conversation, Matt Baldoni with Brian Friedman, power attorney.
Doesn't it just come down to, was Blake Lively harassed on set in violation of an agreement that your clients made? And was she disparaged online in violation of an agreement that your clients made?
Well, let's take the first part for a second. In the CRD complaint and in the first filing of the lawsuit with the Southern District of New York, the allegations in the complaint say once the 17-point list was agreed to, everything from then on was fine. There were no issues. So when you talk about on the set, all of the sex scenes and all of that took place after the 17-point bullet list was agreed to. So even in her own CRD complaint and in her own initial filed complaint, it says that everything was fine from that point on. Okay. So now we're really limited to nothing more ultimately than was there a smear campaign?
Yes. Okay. Well, she could claim that there was harassment before the agreement, but the breach of contract claim would be relevant only for the smear campaign.
Right. And okay. I think when you look at the harassment and what you're talking about, there were certain things that were alleged in the pleadings that she calls harassment, and that will be the subject of that matter. Was that reported? What was that exactly? There were some references to the dancing scene that yep. the
intimacy stuff. Yes. Can you say with certainty that your client did not harass her?
I can say that with certainty that my client is one of the most honorable people I've ever met, is true and genuine, that without question, he did not, whether she felt harassed or not is one thing, mm-hmm. but does it rise to the legal definition of harassment? And the answer to that is no.
And again, this is a point he's made before and it hasn't really changed. He says no harassment, but he also says their issue is going to be more, can they prove that there was a smear campaign? So we go over to the New York Times version or section of this messy lawsuit here. And what's interesting is, of course, Matthew Baldoni, a reporter, he can kind of speak towards what's common protocol with these journalists and what's not. And even he says, yeah, it's pretty shady that the New York Times would only give him several hours to respond. Have a listen.
With 14, 15 hours to respond. And that may not seem like a lot, but in media, that's not bad.
I don't know that that's so much a relevant factor, except that out of those 15 hours, a lot of those are sleep hours.
Okay.
For those that sleep. A lot of those are on a holiday weekend on a Friday night. Yes. At 9 o'clock at night. For those
that is, I will give you that. That is a shady move. If you're working on a story for months and you're giving somebody notice on a Friday night, that's a pretty shady move. Doesn't make it defamation, but it does make it a little skeezy.
Well, Matt, let me ask you this. If you're in search for the truth, were you worried about someone scooping the story? I mean, this is not a story anybody's going to scoop.
Well, you've never met a journalist. They're all afraid of getting scooped.
They've been working on it for 5 months.
I get it.
And look, I mean, it's a real strong point. And this is one of those points that you might not win in court over defamation, but the audience goes, you mean you covered this for 5 months and then on a Friday night, you reached out to Justin Baldoni for comment, and by the time he got back to you, you already published it? Shady. And as people have said, they do that to say they did reach out, but they don't want to change their story. So you could argue, if you're looking to look at Megan Twohey and where she belongs in this whole mess, she didn't want the truth. And honestly, as a journalist, you lose all credibility.
And it seemed to me, at least, that the filing of the complaint was done in coordination with the Times. I don't have evidence of that, but I assume that the story was timed to go right when it was filed.
So when you look at this, by the way, and you get this initial article about this contentious interview, I just don't see it. I see Matt Baldoni, trying his best to play devil's advocate, but I see him as somebody who understands, yeah, this is super shady, and it was definitely a coordinated campaign. It doesn't mean that it's illegal, but for the public's knowledge, it's not really necessarily important whether or not it was illegal. It's who deserves the justice here. Now we get to Steph Jones. Now, as we can recall, Steph Jones worked for Wayfair and Justin Baldoni. They then parted ways with Steph Jones' company, and that's when Steph Jones was able to access all of the phone records from her, from the people that worked with her. And the, I guess, working theory is that they double-crossed Justin Baldoni and got those phone records to Blake Lively, which, by the way, could have been the complete instigator in this thing. It could be the spark that detonated the whole thing.
Directly involved in that. She seems like the wild card here. Do you believe Steph Jones? And just full disclosure, I've had my run-ins with her over the years. I believe she has tried to smear me in different outlets. She has a reputation as a publicist, not a great person. Do you believe?
Wow, how about that? Matt Baldoni says, yeah, we already know she's not a good person. So this PR game is pretty dirty stuff. I guess people talk.
I believe that once she was no longer representing your client, that she then participated in the New York Times piece and helped the New York Times piece?
I believe that if you look at some of the information out there, there's a pattern of practice that you're aware of. You've talked about it, of former clients who are no longer her clients.
You better not subpoena me. Oh, the evil laugh. You better not.
No. Listen, there are a number of situations with a number of people who have terminated that relationship and then found there to be hit pieces about them out there.
She denies that, by the way, that she has any involvement in any of that. Just
It's kind of like Scientology. You know, Scientology is known for that E-meter test where they get all your dirt, and then when you try to leave Scientology, they'll use it against you. All right, don't come after me, Scientologist. That's just what I heard. But yeah, if Steph Jones knows all the dirt about her clients and can help keep that from surfacing, she could then leverage that against them. And I mean, really, what? It sounds like these people are all crazy. You know, this is it reads like fiction, but this is how the industry can work at times. All right, here's the last part. Matt Baldoni asked Brian Friedman, why are they dragging this thing out? Why not settle? And let's get to his answer.
Okay, I get that. All right, well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I want you to give us finally just your prediction here. How long can this go on? I do not believe there will be a trial in this case. I just think that the potential for the circus and the damage to both sides here will ultimately win out and you guys will settle. So if that's the case, then why not just settle now? What is the number? Like what would it require to make this go away, just to stop?
A public apology and $100 million. That's what people are saying.
So, you know, Matt, you keep referring to it as a circus. And I get it. You see a lot of cases, you see a lot of things, and you do a great job. But the reality is, this is not a circus when you go through an experience like this. I've represented a lot of people in the worst moments of their careers, the worst moments of their life. Justin has been destroyed by this. The company, the individuals of the company. This is a really serious thing. And in this day and age, the only way that you can truly get back and is to prove your innocence. It's not be found guilty. It's to prove your innocence. And that's what we're actively working to. So that may only be able to be done in a courtroom.
All right. Well,
wow. So there he says it may only be done in a courtroom. Now, if you're Brian Friedman, there's no way you're going to show your cards if you would settle for a certain price. So he's saying we're taking this thing all the way, baby, and that's how you play chicken. That's how you play. He goes straight for the jugular, right? Now he's not wrong though. Being proven innocent is the best way. And it leaves no shadow of a doubt. Will they get to that stage? I mean, does Justin Baldoni have any skeletons in his closet? If he doesn't, and it's squeaky clean, and there's no amount of discovery he's worried about, then he's like, let it fly. I know I'm innocent. But you can still be innocent and not want to put your family through it and just say, you know what? We're done, and we'll have to see what sort of strength he has to continue with that. But we know the money's there. And by all means, this is shaping up to be one of the few cases that would go to trial. As you guys know, I told you if we hit 100,000 subscribers, I will be reporting live from the courthouse. And I guarantee that's what I'll be doing because you got me to 130,000 subscribers. So we'll be renting a place in Lower Manhattan and live streaming. I'll be strapping some Starlink to my fedora, and we will be getting down there and giving you high quality reporting. You bet your bottom dollar. All right, coming up next, we'll get into some of the politics, talks of the economy, and what's going on with our world as we know it. That coming next. Free speech is obviously something we sometimes take for granted. And as a content channel here, voicing my opinion is kind of a priority when it comes to what we do. And as you guys know, last year I was sued in part for harassment, which was denied by the judge due to First Amendment rights, the right to share my opinion and report the news. And of course, I wasn't sued for any real reasons. I was sued because someone didn't like the truth that I was exposing, right? We all know that, but in the end, it can still be used against you. And the threats of any sort of lawsuits can keep you quiet. Well, now as we're watching it play out, in some cases, they can also get you kicked out of the country. I'm going to share what Bloomberg News is saying about the Trump administration's attempt to deport Mahmoud Khalil and how that could hurt free speech for everyone. First, let's share what the vice president says about green card holders' rights.
A green card holder, even if I might like that green card holder, doesn't have an indefinite right to be in the United States of America, right? American citizens have different rights from people who have green cards, from people who have student visas. And so my attitude on this is this is not fundamentally about free speech. And to me, yes, it's about national security, but it's also more importantly about who do we, as an American public, decide gets to join our national community? And if the Secretary of State and the President decide this person shouldn't be in America and they have no legal right to stay here, it's as simple as that.
And what's scary, and we'll have to see if Ingraham here cross-examines him as a journalist. You hope she would. But what's scary is that the reason why he, of course, has been or is being deported is because he's speaking up about a war where he thinks that the Palestinian people are part of a genocide. He sees that the Israeli government has bombed them in their whole community into rubble. Now, their argument is that, well, he's supporting the terrorist Hamas and all of that. And sure, green card holders do not have all of the rights as American citizens do. Sure. But at the same time, this message is about free speech. It's about finding out who you can deport and deporting them on the mere reason that you don't like their opinion of what they think about the war.
Do you see more such deportations happening?
I think we'll certainly see some people who get deported on student visas if we determine that it's not in the best interest of the United States to have them in our country. So yeah, I don't know how high that number is going to be, but you're going to see more people.
And just remember, he didn't just have a student visa. He had a green card. His wife is 8 months pregnant, and she is an American citizen. And he was on, part of protests, sharing his opinions based on what he sees as a government committing genocide against a people. Here is, and again, you might disagree with that, but there has been a ton of bloodshed on both sides, absolutely. But there has been a ton of bloodshed in such a terrible, terrible story that at the very least, you would expect people to speak out against the sort of funding that the American government has made to another government to continue this wrath. And by the way, it hasn't slowed Hamas down. Hamas hasn't lost any numbers, and they've pretty much wiped out the whole Gaza Strip, right? It's reduced to rubble. Trump wants to build, resort town there. Here's Noah Feldman, an opinion columnist for Bloomberg, Harvard law professor, talking about the issues here.
If Mahmoud Khalil isn't deported, as the Trump administration is trying to do, the damage to free speech in the United States may already have been done, and that damage may be significant. The Trump administration has arrested and detained Mahmoud Khalil. He is a lawful permanent resident of the United States. That means he's a green card holder. People who live in the United States as lawful permanent residents have First Amendment rights under the Constitution, and the Supreme Court has been saying that for nearly a century. So when the administration tries to deport someone for what he said, they're undermining free speech rights, not only for him and not only for people who are green card holders, they're doing it for everybody.
Now the government is arguing that Mahmoud Khalil here is supporting Hamas, a known terror organization. So that's their point. You lose your First Amendment rights when you're working in cahoots to rally people around a terror organization. Will that hold up in court? I mean, that's what we're going to find out. But the problem is, and the same thing happens with grace, right? We all want grace for people we love, but how about grace for your enemies? That's the real exercise. And First Amendment, how about sticking up for people you may disagree with? That's the hard part in defending the First Amendment, is defending it when people might want to burn the American flag, defending it when people might want to speak out against a war, defending it when it's someone on a different political ideology as you. That's what we see. And there's a lot of people that have said the First Amendment rights are under attack, right? They've said this for years. And now we have an example where this is actually happening, and the silence is deafening.
Because that's how free speech works. The message to everyone else is that the administration might find a way to punish you for your speech too. And so the point of free speech rights, like all fundamental rights, is that either everyone who's entitled to them has them, or no one who has them is genuinely safe. So there's a fundamental contradiction between what Trump said coming into office and what his administration is doing in this case. That's the reason that a lot of people who have no sympathy whatsoever for Khalil's politics nevertheless are protecting his right to express his opinion. The Trump administration has been suggesting that they don't think that Khalil committed any crimes, but that they want to test whether the law that says that the Secretary of State can say that someone should be deported because it's against our foreign policy interests for them to be in the country is in fact constitutional. And the question that the courts will now have to decide is whether that provision of immigration law violates free speech when it's applied to kick out someone based on words that he said. The other provision that they might rely on in the future says that if someone espouses or endorses terrorism, they can be deported from the United States, even if they're here lawfully.
And my question is, well, then what constitutes supporting terrorism? And folks said, oh, if you don't do anything wrong, this shouldn't be a problem. Well, how about they're talking about dangerous U.S. citizens and possibly being able to put them in prison in other countries? What do they say, El Salvador, right? Put them in an El Salvadorian prison? And people say, well, don't do anything wrong then. But can't you understand the dangers that are inherent here to silencing not just protesters, but what's next after that? Journalists? I mean, it sounds like a crazy stretch, but you're seeing cracks in the fissure. So wild stuff. Our last clip of the day here is Vice President J.D. Vance also discussing the economy. It is deflating, to say the very least. I think it's deflated by at least 10%, the S&P 500 and other stock metrics. Here's what J.D. Vance has to say.
Business leaders is I think the president has actually been quite clear about what he wants to accomplish: build more in the United States of America, invest more in the United States of America, raise wages for workers in the United States of America, and you don't have to pay these tariffs at all. There is, as the president has said, a recognition that we have to accept, which is that, look, Joe Biden left this economy in a disaster.
So there it is. He left this economy in a disaster. Now, there's always ways to improve everything, but don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. For those of you that have your retirements on the line, how was your stock market and your portfolio and your 401ks? How was it looking 2 months ago compared to right now? That's a question you have to ask yourself. There might be a lot of people that were kind of waiting to ride it out, and now they can't pull money out. And I empathize with you, but this is the world we live in. Will it get worse on April 2nd when more of these tariffs kick in? We'll have to see. So what did we learn today? Don't steal baby wombats, and don't speak out loud, and you might get deported if you do. All right, that's it for me. We'll have a lot of content to get to. I got a lot of content coming your way today. I promise you that. At least 2 videos up next, and then the afternoon rush to wrap it all up. All right, you might be hungover, so hang in there. It's okay. Take your electrolytes. We'll be back after this. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.